Hi everyone, my name's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my review of A House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I will not be holding this book the whole time because it's huge. I will be starting with my non-spoiler thoughts for anyone that has not read it yet and wants to know if they should read it. I will do that first. Then I will put a big warning on the screen when I start my spoiler thoughts. I will also put a timestamp down below. And I will get into all of my spoilery thoughts and that ending for anyone that has read it. So this book is the second book in the Crescent City series, the first one being The House of Earth and Blood. I really liked The House of Earth and Blood. I thought that the new setting and the new characters were really fun. It was definitely too long, but I liked it a lot. Sobbed like a baby at the end like everyone else. This one just continues following Bryson Hunt as they try to lay low after everything that happened at the end of the last book. So let's start with the plot. It's too cluttered. Why is this book so long? This book did not need to be 800 pages. The plot has too much going on. We followed too many plot lines. We followed too many points of view, and I get that Sarah J. Maas is trying to create this web of story. I'm sure she's going to try to tie all together by the end, but it felt too much. All of the points of view didn't necessarily add to the story. I think we could have lived without all of Tharion's points of view. We probably could have dialed back on some of Ethan's points of view. I just felt like not all of that stuff added to the story. There was too much. We could have probably just done Bryce, Hunt, and Rune and been fine. That would have been enough points of view. But instead we went into all these other people and it was just too much. The whole missing person thing was fine. It was fine. I thought it was gonna be a lot cooler. I thought we were gonna get a lot more of that, but it was kind of anticlimactic. Also, why is Danica still such a big deal? Why is she still so important to the story? She was a bad friend. I'll talk more about that in my spoilery thoughts, but she should not be driving the story as much as she is still. My girl dies in the first 100 pages of the first book. Why is she still such a big deal in this one? Sarah J. Maas does her typical leaning on tropes, mates, things like that. What did you expect? I totally expected it going into this book, but if you were hoping that maybe she strays away, she doesn't. It is still very heavy in this. I do think that she tries to sort of address some of the criticisms she's gotten in the past. She's gotten a lot of criticisms for her lack of queer rep and her lack of people of color in her books. There were definitely some more queer characters in this and some more people of color, so I think that she's trying to remedy that. I can't say how good she does at it. I will let smarter people say that, but it is there. I think that the further exploration of Bryce and Hunt's relationship is fun. I think following them was definitely interesting. I like Bryce. Hunt is fine. I like him. He's not my favorite love interest in her books, but I like him. I think that Bryce's character development, especially from the beginning of the first book to now, has been really fun to see. I think that she has definitely matured a lot, but we also see her stumble. We see her make mistakes, and we see her try to figure out how she's going to live this life as this, of course, overpowered fae person, typical Sarah J. Maas overpowered fae. I think that one of my favorite things to see in these books that we've explored is her continued growth in her relationship with Rune. I think that has been very fun to read about. Overall, I don't know if I liked this book. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I think that it was entertaining. Is it good? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I cannot decide. I think that the ending, Sarah J. Maas comes back, does her normal bullshit, and wraps everything up in a crazy way that has you just that has your head just spinning. So I think that it was definitely entertaining. I just cannot decide. The ending really threw me, which I'll get into in my spoiler thoughts, but everyone is raving about it and saying how crazy it is. I just don't know. I don't think I liked it, but I don't know. I've had now a week to think about this and really try to process is this good? Did I like it? And I just don't know, which I guess means no, but I don't know. I did enjoy it. And the last third of it, I was like flipping pages quick. Like I was going through this. I was really enjoying it. So I do think it was enjoyable. I just don't know if it was good. So here we are. Now I'm going to get into my spoiler thoughts. If you have not read this book, do not continue past this point. I will be spoiling everything. I will be talking about the very end. I will be talking about all of the plot lines. So stop now. All right, now for my spoiler thoughts. Let's get into it. All these plot lines, I do not think they're all necessary. The whole plot line with the fire sprites and the dragon, were they necessary? I'm sure they're going to be a bigger part in the next book, but I just felt like we spent too much time talking about them. Like, the fact that everyone was so upset when this dragon dipped, like, she was literally a slave. Like, of course she's going to dip. Why would she stay with you guys? And, like, we just talked about it too much. The sprites, like, just felt unnecessary. I feel like at the very beginning I was very confused because it is made such a big deal that joining this rebellion could be deadly. So what do the characters do? They tell freaking everyone they know. They're like, hey, you, I need help. I'm joining a rebellion. You, I'm joining a rebellion. I need help. They brought in all the characters. They just told everyone they know, like, hey, we're joining this rebellion and we need help. Like, I just felt like we brought in so many characters right away after it had been impressed upon us how dangerous it was for them to be doing this. I think that Ethan provided like a fun way to like learn more about the wolves, but if he hadn't been in the story at all, I don't think it would have changed. Like, I honestly don't think the plot would have changed. His like yearning for Bryce felt unnecessary because it's not going to go anywhere, I don't think. I mean, it's Sarah J. Maas, who knows? But I think we could have gotten rid of his perspective and him from the story completely, and it would have been fine. I get that he kind of like gave us that insight into the wolves and like gave us the insight into more about Danica, but did he? Because nobody knows what Danica was doing. Let's go into that. Danica kept so many secrets from everyone. She had an entire mate and didn't tell her best friend. Like, she was a bad friend. Like, Bryce gave all of herself to Danica. She was her everything, and Danica kept all of these secrets. She was possibly part of the rebellion. She had a whole mate. Like, what? She is a bad friend. I don't see it as like, oh, she's trying to keep Bryce safe. No, she was a bad friend. If she's your best friend, she should know all of this stuff, or at least some of it. Like, it made me very angry. The fact that this whole book was still being propelled by Danica's secrets is just like buck wild to me. I just felt like it was like lazy. Like, this woman who's been dead since the beginning of the first book is now propelling the entire plot for this book almost. Like, I just thought it was boring. I thought all of Tharion's points of view boring. I don't think they're necessary. I'm sure it will be a big deal in later books, and I'm sure this is like just starting that. But I just felt like he didn't add anything to the story. And then Hypaxia, or however you say her name, Hypaxia comes into it. She knocks on the frat house door and they're like, oh, come in. Now let me tell you about how we've joined a rebellion. Like, again, why are they telling everyone they know that they're doing this? It just seems so wild to me. They're getting away with so much stuff. They're supposed to be these all-powerful beings that are coming to their city, and they're just like, yep, we're gonna tell everyone we know that we're in this rebellion. I just felt like there were too many characters brought in. I think it would have been stronger if it was just like Hunt, Bryce, Rune, and like maybe one other person. And then maybe they get some help here and there, but discreetly. But instead they like start this huge crew of people all involved and no one bats an eye. They're just like, yeah, sure, I'll help with your rebellion. What? I think there's a lot of stuff that we like start to explore that is just too much. The prime wolf that's at the astronomers. Like, yes, I think that the whole thing with the astronomer was definitely really cool, and I'm assuming we're going to explore that more later, but like, did it add to this story? I don't know. I don't think so. Like, we got the fire sprites and the dragon from there, but like, again, I don't think they added much to the story. Like, it just seemed like extra. I did like the storyline with Rune and Night and Day. I liked that. I thought it was interesting. I was convinced for like the whole book that Day was Celestina. I was convinced because like every time that she was cut off and like it went into like, oh, she has to like have sex with this person, this mystery person, I thought for sure it was Celestina because she was in that arranged marriage. I caught on that it was the Hind after that party when he sees her up at the top of the stairs or whatever, like I caught on then, but I was convinced the whole book that it was Celestina. But I did like that whole plot line. I thought it was cool that the Hind was like part of the rebellion. That I think was rewarding. I think that Hunt and Bryce being mates was just like, I don't know. It's just like Sarah J. Maas, everyone else has talked about this, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but Sarah J. Maas like says in all of her books, having a mate is so rare. Hardly anyone ever finds a mate. And all of her characters have mates. So, I don't know. When I found out they were mates, I was like, well, of course. Like it wasn't that cool to me. Like I was just like, well, of course they would be. It's a Sarah J. Maas book. But I do think their relationship was fun to read. I think that they probably have the most healthy relationship out of all of Sarah J. Maas's main love interests in all of her series. I think that her adding all of these steamy scenes, I definitely think some of them added to the story. Like I think that a lot of that like sexual tension definitely made the book fun, but I think that some of them were just there to be there. And again, this book was too long, so like we probably could have cut out some of those sex scenes. Again, I get she's trying to like make this an adult like steamy romance book, but like either have it be that or have it be this really intense plot, but having both just made it again feel too cluttered, too long. Now, the ending. First, before we get into the ending, Hunt becoming a slave again at the end was heartbreaking. I definitely teared up. I think that it was hard to read. I don't know if I like it. I think I'll be okay with it if it is quickly resolved at the beginning of the next book. I really don't want to read a whole nother book of him being a slave because we've already had that. I'm sure it'll be slightly different this time, but like we've already had a whole book of him as a slave and like them trying to free him. So I think that having that be another plot point for an entire book will just be too much. But if it's resolved quickly at the beginning of the next book, I think it will definitely I think it will make the ending of this book worth it because it does add that like level of, oh shit, this is real. So we'll see if I liked that. It will really depend on how it is resolved in the next book. I really wish Bryce had actually just gone to hell. Like I think that her showing up in Feyre and Rhys's world is annoying. I think I'm gonna have a hard time putting it into words. I think everyone else is like raving about this ending, and I thought it was like a cop-out. I don't know. Like she's trying to create this whole multiverse, and like in spoilers for Throne of Glass here. If you haven't read the Throne of Glass series or ACOTAR, I don't know, pause, skip. We had that multiverse feeling in Kingdom of Ash where Aelin is like falling through worlds and she sees Feyre and Rhys. And it was just brief. And I thought that was like fun. Like it was like a little fun thing. But then in this one, Bryce is in Valaris. I can't decide how I feel about that because we could have had this whole storyline of Bryce going to hell and meeting with these princes, and like I think it would be really cool. Like I love that kind of like traveling through dimensions kind of thing. I think it's really cool. But instead we've traveled through dimensions, I guess, but we've traveled to a different world of a different series of hers, and I think it's like having all of these worlds combine. I don't know, I'm sure everyone else is raving about it, but I was like, I wanted this book to be its own thing, you know? Like, I wanted this series to be about Bryce and Hunt, but now we're gonna have all of these other characters in it, and I just feel like she's kind of milking the ACOTAR series too much. Like, I really enjoyed the ACOTAR series, and I loved the way the last book ended, and like now we've got Cassian and Nesta's book, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't really necessary. Like it's just more, but because it wasn't following Feyre and Rhys, I was like, okay, well we're exploring other people's relationships and like that's fun. But now we're bringing them all back again. Like I don't know, I know that it's like a fan service kind of thing, and like a bunch of fans are like raving about this, but I just feel like this is just I don't know. I think it's, as you can see, I'm having a hard time like putting into words why I don't like this, but I just think it's unnecessary. I think that it's too much, but here we are. All right, spoilers are over. This book I do not think was bad. It was not a bad book. It was just too long. It was too much. And I'm hoping that in her next book it can be a little more concise, and I'm hoping that we can kind of cut out some of these extraneous plot lines that just aren't necessary. I would recommend this book to anyone that is a Sarah J. Maas fan. If you have not read her other series, or you're not a fan, maybe try out her other series first, then decide if you want to read this. If you didn't like House of Earth and Blood, it's probably not worth it to read this, because I think House of Earth and Blood is better. I am excited to read the next one, but I'm not as pumped. Like, all of her previous releases, I'm always like, yes, yes, yes. And now this one, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It was okay. Wasn't bad. It was entertaining, especially the last like quarter of it was definitely entertaining. I like that we kind of explored more of the lore. So that is my review of House of Sky and Breath. If you liked this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Please comment and let me know what you thought. If you've read it, let me know what you thought. I want to hear about it. Try not to spoil anything in the comments. You can always DM me on Instagram and we will get into it. We will talk about all of the goods and bads of this book. I want to talk to people about it. Thank you for watching. Your support means the world to me. And until next time, thank you.